Is off the show. All right, gentlemen, you are live on the air. Hello to everyone. How are we doing?
Hey, Dermot.
Max, we'll have to start with you a little bit. We want the now I know you guys a little bit, but I want the guests to hear a little bit about who you are and where you come from and what inspired you to get into this this OD field. We'll start with yourself, Max.
Okay. Well, I used to work in tech, 20 years in Silicon Valley, different big name companies that are almost household names, and got disenchanted with that a while back. Along the way, I also started doing some personal work, doing some therapy workshops, etc. And started to realize that there was an opportunity to actually convert that work that I was doing personally in the working world. So the more I thought about it, the more it was a way to actually blend in the things I was learning personally and to take them back into the corporate world, which I actually, many aspects of the corporate world that I do enjoy. And I think that they have a great impact on a lot of people. So I did briefly consider doing a course in psychology or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to do my work more than just like one-on-one in a room, you know, with comfy armchairs.
I love this I don't know what you would call it, a quote or a mantra, therapy for the workplace, Max.
Yeah.
Where did that come out of?
We were asked that in one of our classes,
Yeah,
actually, and
great.
I just came up with it because, you know, the more we studied this thing, we studied people like Carl Rogers and Daniel Goleman and just some other people that are famous in that kind of more traditional psychology field. And the more I realized that really the work we are doing is of the therapeutic nature. So yeah, I came up with it. It's on the website. And we will be using that phrase a lot as we explain ourselves to people.
Yeah.
It's a very shorthand version of explaining what we do.
Well, it really does say, in essence, of what you guys are bringing to the workplace, because the workplace as a whole, we've moved from the 9-to-5 workplace to where you come in, you're an employee, you clock in, you clock out, to more now of a workplace that's so diverse. And not only that, it's more about networks, right? It's not just one company here, but it's one company that has networks all over the place. So you work with a lot of different companies in different areas and different locations.
Well, another word we use, and we'll probably all be using this, making reference to this, is the idea of systems rather than networks. Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we definitely look at organisation as a system, and even organisation to organisation as systems. And so certainly Ryan and Carly will talk more about that concept. But behind OD, in my own personal view, is an exploration of how systems work and how they don't work. And there's a great quote that one of us will say at some point about systems being perfectly designed.
All right, beautiful. And Carly, the millennial. I like, Max, that you have the Generation X, the Generation Y, and the millennial in your company. I find that a pretty smart move. Carly, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? Where did you grow up? And what inspired you to get into this OD field?
Yeah, so my background and adventure to getting here has been pretty random. I'm actually a Hoosier. I was born and raised in Indiana. I'm very proud of that. And I ended up coming out here because it meets the Bay Area. Everything's happening here tech-wise. And I found a program that's extremely experiential. And I wanted to do something that was in line with my academic background, my undergrad, which was organizational psychology. And I was trying to find a way to make that more applicable in corporations without truly selling out. I know that's a millennial thing to say.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to really go the route of, I'll be a financial analyst and that'll be good enough. I want to do something bigger than that.
Nice.
And organization development gives you that chance to really get in the nuts and bolts of working in systems, as we were talking about, organization to organization, even at individual level. That's a system, whether it's coaching or strategic planning, groups, trans-org, it's all about systems thinking, and that's always come naturally to me. So,
yeah. So you
guys
guys
try my hand.
You guys are coming in though as consultants, but you're also coming in with. So is it more of a telling structure or an asking structure?
Definitely more of an asking structure. We're
Yeah.
big on inquiry. We're big on self as instrument, asking the question, and being open to discovery. Less than, you have a presenting problem, we'll take your word for it. We want to get in there and dig around and really see what's going on.
I like that. Yeah, questions are the answers. You ask a good question, you get a great question. A lot of companies are asking themselves the same old questions and they get the same old answers and they're wondering why they don't change. Ryan, good to have you on the show here.
Thanks, Dermot. It's good to see you.
Welcome.
Yeah, so to answer that question, I started off in mental health, working kind of as a frontline mental health worker for Sonoma County, and you know, you in that type of position, you see a lot of different types of people who really run the spectrum of a lot of what's possible for a person to be, and those people don't always mesh well with you know, regular society, if you want to call it that. But one of the things that I really learned there over time is that everyone's really the same. And you know, I can see the same things happening at my workplace in the mental health field that I see happening in businesses. So I got into, I decided I wanted to kind of take what I knew from mental health and bring it into the business field, because business is a really powerful thing in our society in the US, and a lot of the things that change in the workplace. And you know, if it's okay at work, then people will start doing it at home too, and it's just a really powerful place to change society. It's very influential. So I want to get in there, and I know that if we get people working together and on point with each other in the workplace, then that's going to benefit everybody everywhere.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the challenges, isn't it, with people that come into the workplace? I mean, I see it in coaching too, that people take their problems from home into the workplace, and then they go to the workplace and they take any problems out of the workplace into their home. So how do you guys work with that?
Who wants to jump at that?
Well, there's kind of a norm out there that, you know, you just leave your product, you leave your problems from home at home when you show up to work, and that's kind of the norm that I hear most often in society. And you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. If there's a group that wanted to change how they approach that, we would be open to exploring that with them.
Sure. I mean, you have a lot of different strategies and tools that you use to be able to implement and inspire that change, right, in the companies. So let's get a little specific. Carly, I'd like to ask you a little bit of, like, there's probably a lot of people out there that are wondering, you know, what the heck is organization development? It's a very, very big word, and I wouldn't want to be drunk when I'm saying it. And how does it benefit small business?
Well, like you're saying, it's a huge thing. It looks in a lot of different ways, the different activities and things that you can do that are OD. But our definition is, you've been plugging therapy for the workplace. It really is coming in and looking at a human system, which, surprise, all businesses have human systems. People are working there.
Yeah.
And looking for what's amiss, what's not running as effectively as it could. And that could be a million different things. One of the biggest things we run up against is communication. How are you talking to each other on a day-to-day basis? How are you garnering feedback, informally and formally routes? And are you all working there for the same reasons? The question of why comes up a lot. Why are you working there? Why does that organization exist? And does that align from the employee to the org? And starting there is a good place. And then we kind of figure out what strategies are going to work to get them to a change that they're wanting to move towards, whether it's being raising their bottom line, but also having people stay longer, lower turnover, having a better leadership development program that keeps people in the pipeline for longer. So as far as for small businesses, it doesn't really matter the size of the business for this stuff. It really applies to everything. If you've got people working there, you need some OD, most likely, and often.
Now, do you guys, because one of the things, I mean, and Gandhi knew this, and Steve Jobs knew it too, that change happens from the top down. You know, in terms of, like, when you go into a company, you've got to be able to bring some type of a change, leadership development change, into the leaders first. Is that what you focus on when you go to a company, or give us a few tips on what you do when you go to a company that's having some, you know, we'll say has some common problems? Share a few too.
Well, we have there's a person we identify in any project called the client manager, which is the person that we would be working with. And the higher up the chain that client manager is, the better for everybody, because there's no point having a low-level person bringing us in and doing some work with, you know, their 3 employees, and then it doesn't get adopted beyond that.
Yeah.
So we always push for the client manager to be as high as possible, and more importantly, as involved as possible. So it's one thing for a CEO to go, yes, sounds great, go ahead, and then for that CEO to not be involved at all in our process. So it's go as high as possible and get them as integrated and involved as possible.
Now, are you guys are you allowed to tar and feather any employees that are not, like, working on they're not, like, getting with the program?
No, in fact, thank you for raising that, because that's a really important point that I want to emphasize, is that massive part of our work is confidentiality, and to develop that sense of safety and trust for the individual to be able to share their truth as openly and comfortably as possible. So we do confidential interviews with each person, which we commit to not sharing, other than the themes from those interviews. So we don't name people who said what. So we really need to, because that's really the only way to get to the true truth. An employee, some team member is not going to be as honest in front of their boss as they may be with us. So we want to nurture that sense of trust. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So you guys are kind of the bridge in a way between upper level or managers and employees.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say we're the bridge between themselves and themselves.
Yeah.
To just get honest with themselves. Like, honestly, speak your truth right now. Trust us.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I would say that it's a real privilege, and it's a different type of perspective when you enter an organization as somebody who doesn't really hold any type of particular status on the tree. We come in as third parties, and we typically align with management, but that doesn't mean that we're necessarily beholden to the management. So I really enjoy that part of the work, that we get to go in and treat everybody as equals for the most part. As much as we can, to really understand everybody's perspective and bring it all together.
I read a quote this morning there. It says, "A problem is nothing more than a question that has not been answered." So you guys bring in a lot more questions into this structure, into this. Now, does that mean also asking the employees, what are the problems?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
You mentioned communication as one.
Another little mantra that I've been carrying around for several years now, which applies to this, even though I applied it to my own personal work, was the opposite of judgment is inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
So if I notice myself getting judgmental about a situation, I will start to ask myself why I'm doing that. So the same thing with any situation. If there's a bunch of story going on around that person describing situations, like we would encourage them to, through questions. So inquiry is very important. And we have a quote, a Louis Pasteur quote on our website, and I can't quote it exactly, but he's even saying, and he was the inventor of, what was he inventor of? Pasteurization, thank you.
Yeah. And that there was a flu cell. Although we found out later there isn't.
Okay, but
Sorry,
something along the lines of science. The more one gets into the depth of science, the more it becomes a sort of a humanistic issue.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not mechanical. And I want to make reference to this sort of the two big elements of the work we do is this. It's like the mechanistic versus the humanistic, and we're very much focused on the humanistic.
I like that. I'll throw a wrench out here, Max, and this is for all you guys. What would you say because you're asking what do you want, and you're asking why is it important? Okay, and from a coaching, we call those the logical levels. What do you want? Why is it important? How do you get it? How would you know when you got it? What are some of the values? Because a lot of people who go into these companies and they're, I don't want to say forcing change, but they're going in with this idea that, okay, there's things need to change here. But they're not bringing that humanistic, as you say, that value part of the equation. What would you say some of your values are in your company? What do you hold to be true?
One of our biggest values is integrity.
Integrity.
That right there is huge. And how you were saying about companies that want to change, but they're not really getting that feedback and motivation towards that change. You have to get back to basic psychology. People have to be ready to change for them to want and be motivated to do that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people overlook that basic aspect of humanity in business. It's so easy to do that, but starting there is a big thing. And when you're working with a client, if you don't do that, half the time it's going to fail. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So we definitely start with integrity, which includes that honesty and transparency piece. And then adaptability. Things are going to change as we get in there and really start to figure out what's going on and what success is going to look like for our client. So we tend to stick with that. And of course, we're based in technology, so we consider ourselves to be progressive, living in the Bay Area, and trying to incorporate people analytics into the work that we do. That way humans and tech are working together in a way that's giving the humans the data they need to make humanistic change is going to last, but also informing the data so we can get better at measuring people, which is irrational and hard to do as it is.
Very nice, very nice. When I come back, we're going to take a quick little break. I'm just going to do a station ID, and I'd like to check in with Max around, asking what kind of companies are you guys working with, Max? And what are you guys bringing to the table in terms of those companies? So we'll be right back with our MAOD Consultants, all the way from, you guys are pretty much all living in Sebastopol, right? Petaluma?
The North Bay.
Yeah, the North Bay, all right. We'll keep with the North Bay. All right, you're listening to KOWS 107.3 FM, Occidental, California, in our new studios down here in downtown Sebastopol. And if you're listening on the wacky World Wide Web, we're at, what are we at? KOWS.FM. F for Frank and M for... I know it's cheesy, but I like it. All right, you're listening to the Celtic Coach radio show. We're talking to Max Anderson, Carly Pierce, and Ryan Goulet. They formed a company called MAOD Consultants, and the topic of our show today is really looking at getting what you want, therapy for the workplace, organization development, therapy for the workplace without all the blarney. So Max, let's just jump in here. What types of companies are you guys working with? Who would be interested in hiring you and why?
Well, we are focusing on startups. We see the values and the degree to which they are early and young and fresh in general are very appealing. But then again, it could be any company that is willing to integrate the technological elements of our society with the humanistic. So companies, the shorthand for that is progressive. So companies that are willing to embrace apps to do their work more easily and other things like that, as well as an awareness of the humanistic components of any organization.
I find it so interesting that a lot of companies, you look now, from the millennial point of view of the flex flow, Tim Ferriss, 4-hour work week. There's a lot more of that. There's a whole thing on spiral dynamics about that. But find it very interesting that a lot of these companies, the older companies, are not willing to adapt these new developmental changes or these technological changes. How do you inspire a company to take more of that tech stuff on and get rid of the old clipboards? Because that's still out there, right? Or am I totally off?
I mean, let me just answer that question in just 1 second and just touch on the answering your previous question as well. The notion of a company is also interested in community, so that we don't just go in there, do the consulting, do a 3-day workshop, whatever, give them some binders and then disappear again. That we actually want to work with companies in an ongoing way, and we're looking at actually some sort of, like I said, community subscription type of thing where it's an ongoing relationship where we're available to them beyond any initial consulting work we do with them. So I wanted to make that point clear as well. Just back to the system or the network. So, but your other question is. It's almost like just demonstrating best practice.
Yeah.
I personally find it very easy to run my life with a couple of key apps that I have on my iPhone, for example. I'm not sort of attached to it, but it does help with make things simpler and efficient for my life personally, and I want to help companies be more simple and efficient with how they operate as well.
I like that. Helping companies be more simple and efficient. I think we could all do with a bit of that, Max. What do we got here? Let's check in. I wanted to ask Carly a question. Oh yes, here we go. I hope this is for Carly. Carly, if I let's say just for giggles that I had a company and I had about 50 people working for it, and I decided, hey, MAOD Consultants are the guys for me. What should I expect when you guys come in? Like, am I gonna have to make you coffee each morning? How many days do you go in there? How do you make it fun? That types of stuff. What do you bring into the table that the company will be like, oh, these guys they're a little different. Outside of the humanistic, because I really like that. I think that's important.
Yeah, well, the first thing we walk into any company, we're very honest. We want to know what you think your problem is without...
And will they tell you?
Oh, usually there's a presenting problem.
The employees will probably tell you, right?
Oh yeah, we learn a lot. And from that,
this is the problem.
Of course. And then we generally have some kind of enthusiasm about making a change that's going to be appropriate. But there's always a consulting meeting. We figure out the boundaries of what this project's going to look like. And as Max was saying, we want to work with people that are wanting to continue, evolve, and change. Yeah. People that know you're not going to do this once and everything's fixed. You don't have to ever look at it again. So usually when we come in, we're very upfront about our values, and we hope that they align with the company. And if you had a company of like 50 people, the first basic question you're going to have is, how much are you looking to scale in the next few years? How is that going? Do you have any idea how you're going to do that or what that success would look like? So asking basic questions and then seeing what their presenting problem is, And then we're going to, of course, design some measurement instruments to talk to some of the key stakeholders, which would be usually higher management, but also maybe a survey to the whole company. It's 50 people. It's doable.
Do you meet now? Do you meet with the managers and employees together, or do you meet with them separately? Because there's a tendency where the employees are not going to speak out if the manager's sitting next to them, right?
Of course. There's a little bit of both. Usually we start with a client manager, which is the higher up, and that'll be a separate meeting. And then we have launch meetings where you get everyone into the room, especially if it's a smaller company, and let them know like what we're trying to do and what it's going to look like. And we gather some of their feedback about their hopes and fears about that process. And then separately from that, we do usually meet individually with employees confidentially to gather their perspective on how things are going or how bad things are going at the same time.
Right, because the employees will tell you that. And then let's say the company is failing and they don't know why. What do you have strategies or tools to look at? Okay, why are we not making the quotas? Why are we not, hitting on the important stuff?
Yeah, there can be a lot of reasons that a company is having a hard time financially. We mostly come from the humanistic angle, but if it's more appropriate to come from a look at your finances or from a look at your market or your operations, then you should do that, and we can be a part of that. But we might not be the entire part of even the main part. But we're really more focused on people strategy.
Mm-hmm. What do you find now, Carly? You mentioned earlier about communication. What do you guys find are some of the other problems that are inherent in companies? But let's say small businesses. We'll talk to small businesses a moment.
Sure. Yeah. So, things are changing, as we all know, and one of the
it's inevitable. I hear
it is. I mean, you kind of went over
even in
that.
business.
And one of the problems that we see coming up is that you have people coming at their technology from all these different angles, right? You mentioned that there might be an older person who picks up a cell phone and doesn't really feel that interested in it. That's the perspective he's coming from, but really we all come at our technology from different angles. We all pick it up and we all think it's something different. So what that really gets to is the way technology is integrating with our business cultures, and what we can do to really uncover people's assumptions about what they think about work and what that means about how they're using their tools. So, for example, you might have somebody come in that says, "Oh, hey, I don't need to be in the office today. I'm going to work from home."
Yeah.
And I've got the tools that are going to allow me to do that. I'll be in touch over Skype or over different tools that they could use. Somebody else might look at that and say, "No, that you can't do that. We need you here in the office. We need to have face-to-face conversations about the details about what's going on. I need to see your face and have a real relationship with you." So what we're really helping to do is to really find out where that line can be for different companies, and where they can kind of set up their own norms around how they're using technology and integrating that with their lives and with their culture.
Very nice, very nice. I like a little quote that you had here that you guys sent me. In summary, we offer solutions that are scalable, personal, human-based, and tech-savvy. I mean, I think you got a good thing going there with the human-based and tech-savvy. One of the things that I find fascinating about your company is that you have Generation X, Generation Y, and Millennial in your company, and all three systems are going up right now. How do you support people to integrate and communicate and work better together? Because that is a problem in the workplace right now, where the Generation X are like, "Oh, these millennials," and they're so with this and that, and then the clipboard comes out. I like the clipboard, by the way.
I definitely want to hear from the other two because it's very relevant to the three different perspectives. But I would just start off by inquiring. Everyone's got something to say, and just to get it in the room is a starting point. So it doesn't matter what the range of people are. Everyone appreciates being asked a question and appreciates being given the time to answer it.
Yeah, I like that you guys have more of a question approach than a telling, because I forget who said it, but if you tell me something, I'll forget it. If you teach me something, I may learn it. But if you invite me to be part of the process, I'll remember it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a good kind of line in terms of what you guys are offering.
We might want to borrow
companies.
that for our.
Hopefully, other members.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear from Carly and Ryan about the same question.
Yeah, Carly, talk a little bit about because I think millennials get a bit of a bad rap. I'll be totally honest with you. They get a bit of a bad rap, and I have a nephew that's in the tech world in San Francisco. Actually, I may hook you guys up with our company. And he tells me that these guys come in and they don't have much experience. And maybe you can shed a bit more light on this. And they're asking for these huge amounts of money to work for these tech companies. And the tech company's like, well, what are you bringing to the table? And the guy says, well, I'm here. What do you have to say about that? And how would you work with these companies?
Well, I think the problem, or the millennial problem, it's not really about millennials.
Yeah.
It's about how people are evolving and how organizations aren't evolving as quickly. Because I mean, as millennial and our stereotype, we want more. We want more money, we want more freedom, we want more development, we want more out of our lives, professionally and personally. In organizations in the past, it was you clocked in, you clocked out.
Yeah.
Now we're looking for those organizations to meet us halfway and to be a symbiotic partner in that. And I think it's not really any different between millennials and Gen X, Gen Y. It's just we're the newest in the workforce, so we
The
get
new
the blunt
kids
of
on the
that.
block, yeah.
I don't think it's really that much different. I mean, just the other day I was talking to these guys. I was like, "How old are you?" I really don't even know how old you are because it's not something I think about. But apparently, the rest of the world tends to think about how old millennials are. Unfortunately.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, listeners, this is a pretty good-looking company here. I have to say, they all look very healthy. They must be doing some type of work therapy in the workplace or at home. I don't know which. Ryan, what would you add to that, mate?
Yeah, I'll say that, I'm a little bit jealous of people in Carly's generation for the way that they've really just mastered their technology and their tools without even really having to think about it.
Mm-hmm. We older guys got to work at it.
You do. You have to play.
And then it changes.
And for me, I was in college when Facebook really kind of took off, and suddenly there was this whole new way of doing things. And now whenever I'm scarred from that, because whenever a new piece of technology comes into my life, I can't help but think like, how is this going to change the world? This is going to change everything. But most of the time it's not. It's just a small little tidbit that's going to help you do one thing or another. But people like Carly and Carly's age and younger, it's amazing to watch them pick up new tools and just get it, and to watch them just like absorb it and put it in their lives and know what to do with it.
Let's pick up on the conversation that we started with Carly, Ryan, for you. So you guys go into a company, say you go into a company of 50 people or so, and you got some problems, you're working on communication or whatever it is, and you work with that company. How do you then, and Max touched on this a little bit earlier, how do you know if OD is working? Like, is there some way to track that? Is it scalable? I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, if you see people getting frustrated with their tools and kind of banging their heads and going,
It's
how is
working.
this? Yeah, that means it's working.
All right.
Or if you walk into a whole room of people and you see them all kind of shouting at their iPhones, then that's a good sign.
Yeah, nice.
But some people are comfortable sort of using their own intuition about that kind of stuff. And just saying like, okay, I can see that this is working, or I feel better when I come home from work. I don't feel like I've been, running around in circles today. So some people are comfortable doing that. Other people will really enjoy the fact that we can gather a lot more data with these kind of tools that we might implement in the workplace. So, that's a double-edged sword, and we can talk about that. But when you're using phones and computers and different types of tools to communicate, it's really easy to pluck that data out and to crunch that data and find out what's going on a bigger picture inside, even amongst thousands of people, to find out what's going on. So we bring that angle too, the ability to take that data and to crunch it down into something digestible that says like, look, this changed.
Yeah. And how do you work with people for like a weekend, for 3 days? Does it depend on what the company wants? How many days are you working with a company? And then how do you track it afterwards?
It varies a lot. And like I was saying earlier, we are working on the ongoing community model. So even if we probably will do a set of workshops, at least one workshop, having done this initial, round of investigating and theming, that there will be some workshops. But in the long run, I still have this vision of wanting them to sort of be able to check in with us just in an ongoing way. And somehow I want to share this story bit, which even
Please,
though-
we love stories. Max.
Okay,
We love
and
stories.
it involves Dublin, Dermot. So
Uh-oh.
you'll
Oh,
appreciate
you
it.
lived in Dublin?
No, I
didn't you?
didn't. I just went through Dublin Airport one time.
Oh, because I read on your website. I thought I didn't know Max worked at.
No, I was just passing through. I was flying to Europe on Aer Lingus, and of course it
So
stopped.
there's the problem right there, by the way. Aer Lingus, they're the problem. No, just kidding, Aer Lingus.
Yeah.
Don't email me.
So it relates to this question a bit that for the first time I'd really noticed, and obviously these things have been around for a while before, but I noticed all these white posts with 4 buttons on the top, or actually maybe they're just 2, like a green button and a red button, which is like, how's your experience in this airport? Happy? Are you happy with it or not?
Press the button.
I mean, I should press the red button about 20 times.
Yeah.
But
Thanks, Max.
yeah.
By the way, Max is English. I don't know if anyone noticed that.
But I kind of got this idea from them. How cool would it be to have that kind of technology in the workplace? And I even came up with this sort of working title for this idea in my head called the Company Health Monitor. And at one point I thought, well, it'd be great just to do a startup of my own on that. But I discovered there's already software out there. This company's doing that already. So rather than just doing it myself, I just thought, okay, let's go and talk to those companies. So actually I made a big part of finishing my master's degree. My final project was on talking to software companies. And so, back to the question, there's a thing out there, there's phrases like people analytics and data analytics, but there's also a concept of pulse surveys, just constantly as a company wants to know what's going on right now. They can set up another, even surveys with an old-fashioned word, it's literally just taking the pulse. So that's how we would do it, just constantly encouraging companies to set up some technical system in their environment to be able to get that feedback mechanism more healthy and effective. And we, as consultants, will be using that to inform us to apply a humanistic solutions to whatever's coming up. And I spoke to several clients of these software companies because as part of my research, I had to talk to the people that were using it to ask them what sort of things came up for them. And more often than not, they would say, oh yeah, the thing we thought was a problem turned out not to be the problem at all. It's something else came up, that we never expected to be there. So there's something very valuable about it, but not to over stress it, using software as the solution. It's really just the sort of the data gathering and the analysis bit that's valuable about that. And there's always going to be a place for the human in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're walking, talking value systems, habit systems, as Marilyn Atkins says. How do you, when you go into a company, and I'll open this for all of you guys, what are you looking for? When you step into a company, what is it you're looking for from that company? Does that make sense, that question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the people that we're really meeting up front.
Oh, good, because it didn't make sense to me, by the way.
The first thing I want to see is somebody who wants to engage in the relationship.
Yeah.
I want somebody who...
committed.
Yeah, who's committed and who understands that this isn't going to be a hit and run on our part. If you want that, there's a lot of companies that do that, that will come in and give you the answers.
Yeah.
They'll tell you what's wrong. They'll tell you what to do, and then they'll say, "See you later."
And they'll also give you a binder as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Get the binder.
Proverbial binder.
Yeah. So that type of relationship we're not really interested in. We really want to be there for people in the long run. To address their problems as they come up. Even a year down the road, I want people to feel comfortable calling us up and saying, hey, we weren't anticipating this, but a system that you guys put in, we want to talk about it. So yeah, if somebody does do that, then we're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a little quick trick to that. I always like to show up about 10, 15 minutes early to a meeting and just observe people. How do they look when they're doing their work? Is everyone miserable? Is everyone happy? What's the structural environment?
What are you finding out there? Tell me. From a millennial perspective, what are you finding?
Well, it varies wildly. I've walked into some staffing firms that are super upbeat, but everything's really old school. They're still using old Macintosh computers. Right. I'm like, how is that working for you?
Now, do you make suggestions in terms of using newer tech, and you would make suggestions on here? Try this app or try this tech solution. How does that work?
We do. We work with Human Intelligence is one that we're pretty fond of. But there's a lot of different people analytics that you can try. I know Ryan has worked with Tiny Pulse. If you want to...
Yeah. Tiny Pulse is a quick survey application that can kind of just take the pulse of your organization really quickly and kind of crunch those numbers and give you a picture of what's happening today, at lunchtime, how people are doing. But yeah, I think that's one of the big values that we provide is that we have some familiarity with these tools and we're looking to really develop our relationships with the companies that sell these tools, so that we can really be a good hookup for companies that are looking to integrate these things, because it takes a lot of time, and you can really create a big mess. You might think, oh well, we'll just go out there and we'll buy the best tool we can, and we'll spend the money. It's okay. But if you drop an entire suite of tools onto a company that already has some other moving parts and people that are going to react differently to those things, then you might end up just creating a big mess and wasting a lot of money.
And do you guys then, do you go in and do you train them on these new tools? Are you part of that process?
Well, yes and no. I mean, certainly I wouldn't claim to be an expert on any of these particular products, but certainly we would, in a way, I'd like to imagine a situation where the training is fairly intuitive. And in fact, I want to kind of give a plug for a book that I did some of my research on called The Invisible Computer. And this is something very much at the heart of our belief system, which is that rather than the machine, the computer, telling us how to act, we want to make the computer almost as invisible as possible. It helps us in a sort of monkey-like fashion, but that the humans come first. So I don't actually want to deal with any software that's too complicated, and the ones that have been mentioned, some other ones we know, are intentionally simple. I used to be a technical writer. That actual profession is dying because most software now is pretty intuitive to begin with. There's no need for the big fat manual that sits on the bookshelf.
Thank God.
Yeah. So I don't want to get into the training thing. It's like, it to be honest, would probably pull in somebody from that particular company to do that kind of informing. But if it's too complicated, it's like it's not working for us. And the ones we've picked so far are because they are quite straightforward.
Yeah, and sticking with the humanistic point of view that Max is talking about, it's a funny thing that happens when people are using these tools to communicate. I don't know if anybody's had the experience of having an argument on Facebook or through email, but it's amazing how I do it too. I get irate in a split second when somebody doesn't agree with me in writing, and so something about the way the tool is kind of facilitating the conversation can cause problems. So in a case where we think that might happen, we might step in and help people to understand, the human value behind this, that
the why.
And to never really lose touch of each other, even though they are going into separate places at separate times.
Now, Ryan, I have to ask, what's the reference to the Google rewards story? You got a story in there first, mate?
All right, sure. So this has to do with, again, the way that different people approach their technology and the way they see it and the assumptions they bring to it. Google obviously has a lot of people that are very into technology, and they had an ongoing process for promoting people within the company. And what they did was just have 5 people get in a room, and they would give them a stack of resumes and say, okay, promote people. And they decided, this takes a long time, so let's see if we can apply some numbers to this. And they did. They created an algorithm that would predict with 90% accuracy, who is the best candidate to be promoted. And the people there took a look at the tool and they said, that's great, we're not going to use this, or we're going to use it in a very limited fashion, because when it comes down to it, everybody knows that we're the people that are making this decision, and it's a people decision being made about other people. And we can't hide behind this sort of machine that says, oh, well, I promoted your friend instead of you because the machine told me to. In that culture with those people, that would just never fly. So again, it just speaks to the way that different people are kind of looking at the way we're incorporating these things in our lives.
And Ryan, just to make the point, that exemplifies our own business model as well, that you will use this technology to support and inform us, but the final actions and decision making and processes that we will create will be very much done by us.
Oh, I like that, Max. How do you guys make it fun when you go in and you do your trainings and you because when we hear organization development, it's the tone kind of goes down a little bit. What do you bring in that? Well, you guys have all different generations, so what do you bring to the table there?
Well, usually the first thing is they see us. They're like, who are these people and why do they associate? So that tends to put people at ease.
Very nice.
And beyond that, we're looking to have a good time. We love what we do. We find it meaningful. We want it to be meaningful for the client. So we love humor. We'll bring in videos, make it fun. We want you to be interactive and collaborate with us. It's not so much we're telling you, here's what needs to be done. It's how is this going to be a good process for you that you're going to enjoy and want to do for the whole project or even onward.
And when you guys,
I'm thinking of a particular process that we haven't actually tried this yet in the workplace, but we have in the class is the World Cafe model, right? So there are different models out there. World Cafes, if somebody else wants to jump in and describe it, but it is almost like imagining people are in a cafe talking, and there's things on the table, I think including crayons and pens, and so there's lots of visioning and things like that. So, you know, there are certain models at our disposal that very much help with the kind of, and yeah, I love the idea. I've got a bag full of pens and magazines to cut pictures out and glue sticks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So there's some gamification that goes on in there, Max.
Yeah.
That's important in business.
Speak to that as well?
Yeah. I think when things are changing in business and at the workplace, people suddenly realize that the relationships are really important. You know, when you can't just come to work and do the same thing you've been doing every day, and you tell somebody, hey, things are going to be different today. The first thing they do is look around the room and say, what's happening? And they look at, you know, they reference each other and try to see, you know, okay, where are you guys at with this? And so that's one of the values that we provide too, is bringing people together in a way that they know they can rely on each other through the process, and then kind of ride out the wave together, and that makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, no, that's important because, you know, people resist change. We want change, but we only want the change that we like. The rest of the change, we call those problems.
Well, I just want to make reference to tonight a suggestion Ryan had for one of our business meetings. We haven't done it yet, but the idea of like, why don't we have a meeting or going on a hike on Mount Tam?
Nice.
So just like thinking out of the box, you know, why do we even have to be in this room? Why don't we go outside and sit? I don't know, just sit in the park and have this workshop. You know,
how about bringing the company on a hike with you, Max?
Absolutely. So I'm thinking that same sort of thinking could apply to some workshop we do. Let's do it on a boat.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. I'm with it. All right, well listen, we've got about 5 minutes in our show, and I want to give you guys a little bit of space to kind of just anything that we haven't touched upon today, or anything that you would like personally to share with our listeners about your company, about your values, or just about yourself. Anything at all that you guys want to put out there. Who wants to start us here?
Well, why don't you ask us question number 9?
Question number 9.
Very freeform.
That's very procedural, Max. All right, question number 9. By the way, we don't have any questions. Max was just making that. All right, question number 9 that does not exist. Well, here's a question for you, Max. How is your company, MAOD Consultants? How are you transforming the OD industry?
Yeah, well, we're each going to answer this because we've got different answers on it. But for me, the key thing is to make it 21st century. You know, we are 16 years, almost 17 years into the 21st century. And I think it's very important to really embrace 20th century technology and software, and even just new human thinking in a way that just is keeping up with the times. So I love bells and whistles, and so, you know, using the most simple and efficient ones of those to apply in our working situation.
Very nice.
That's my answer.
Carly?
Yeah, so we're taking those kind of archaic proven strategies that have worked for all times with humans.
Yeah.
And we're merging that with technology, because technology is getting more advanced. It's not going anywhere.
Yes.
It's not ever going to be perfect.
Hear that, listeners. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, get on board or get out.
Yeah, really.
So we're trying to merge this together in a way that's still very much about the human, forefront. That's what it's all about, and we're trying to make that work in the times that we live in today.
Bridging the world between the record player and the iPod.
Exactly.
Ryan?
Yeah. To go off of what Carly said, you know, it's just a picture I can see happening that I don't want to happen to any more people than it has to, where a manager gets a great tool and decides we're going to use this now, and everybody's going to love it. And this is going to make everybody, you know, more efficient at work, and they forget about the people that are involved. So we really like to take the perspective that people in and of themselves have so much more potential at work than they're exercising and with each other. And technology is going to be a part of that. So we want to make those two work well together.
I like that. People have more potential at work, and making technology a part of that. Ooh, I like that. That rolls off the tongue. All right, last question here before we end with our consultants today. Max, I'll give you the last question on this one. What's next for your company?
Well, yeah, it's actually something I haven't brought up yet, but we really are a service profession. We very much are in service to the client. So it's a question of just developing that service thinking more and more in relationship to our clients, and contributing to whatever their situation is more and more. But essentially, more clients, more money, and also more learning. That for us, it's always a learning thing. That we are always going to be learning just as much as from the clients as they are from us. So
an ever expanding company.
Yeah, an ever expanding company.
Right.
Very much
Embracing change.
Very much embracing change, exactly. And getting the word out about what we do and how we do it. So as a final point on that, please check out our website, MAODconsultants.com, one word, and see if that appeals to you in any kind of way, the way you may want to reach out to us for some OD consulting business.
And Max, do you have anyone like myself who was trying to pronounce the company name as opposed to it being a spelling? So MAOD Consultants.
Yeah,
Did you have anyone say MAOD Consultants or MAOD or anything like that?
Although some people have said that the way the logo's designed, it looks like MAD Consulting.
Yeah.
but MAOD basically means Master of Arts in Organisation Development, which is what all three of us are. We did a program called OD, and that's the shorthand for it. But it also happens to be my first name and second name, so there's certain usefulness around that as well.
Beautiful. Thanks, Max. Carly, what would you want to say to the listeners out there?
Ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing every day, and keep figuring out what that looks like.
All right. Keep figuring what it looks like, and ask yourself, why are you doing that? Why question. A very important question. At least it was for Steve Jobs. All right, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add besides I'm having fun with this. This has been a good ride since we started it, and I want to keep it going. And we want you all to be a part of it, and reach out, contact us. All
right, Max, give us that website again, please.
MAODconsultants.com.
All right, wonderful. All right, you heard it from the MAOD. Oh God. I just want to say MAD Consultants. Can I just say MAD Consultants?
Yeah.
You heard it from the MAD Consultants. All right, all the way from the North Bay, want to just say very, very thank you very much for having you guys today. Beautiful energy. I really like that you guys are focusing on the human element of business and of structure and of format and bringing that into the businesses. I think it's a very important part. I think it's the most important part, and value systems being a very, very integral part of that. So I love hearing that companies are doing that. I wish you guys all the best of luck with your company. And again, thanks very much for coming in today, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dermot.
All right, let's have a little bit of music here with